W5FC. TechNet Saturday at 7 p.m. W5FC.
The Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet net will start in about 3 minutes on this frequency. If you need to use the repeater before the net, please do so now. This is N5BB, net control.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater as we're getting ready to start Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. This is N5BB. My name is Bill. That's November 5 Bravo, Bill. And I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Concerning the subject of astronomy, our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction control. That would be N5BB. And stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station identification or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This is N5BB, Skynet. The net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society. The discussion topic of the evening by the net control station was space exploration and space history. Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. We can also handle astronomical questions and answers. And then we say 73 and close the net. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Now let's start. Looking for short time check-ins. Short time check-ins to Skynet. Please come now with your call sign, name, and your location. This is N5BB looking for short time check-ins.
Uniform, Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob Dallas, short time.
Okay, that station has extremely low audio. Please confirm, was that Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Fox, Romeo, Jacob in Dallas, is that correct? Maybe I misunderstood the call. Who is that station checking in short time? This is N5BB.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell, short time.
Okay, John, K5JDW. I don't think you were the other station. Is Kilo Golf 5 UFR or some similar call sign? Are you still there? This is N5BB.
Form Foxtrot Romeo, KG5, UFR, Jacob and Dallas.
Oh, hey, please confirm. Is that JACOB, Jacob in Dallas? Is that correct?
On the mic pickup, but yes, Juliet Alpha, Charlie, Oscar Bravo, Jacob.
Got you that time, Jacob. Your audio is just very low. Okay. Do we have any other short-time check-ins? If so, please come now. Well, that sounded like two weak stations trying to check in at the same time. Please try again.
Kilo Charlie 5, Mike Papa Oscar, Jamie, short time, mobile, North Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, J, Airweather.
Okay, I recognize KC5MPO. Hello. Any other short-time check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Nothing heard. Now, how about regular RF check-ins? RF check-ins to Skynet. Please come down with your call sign and your name and your location. Call sign, name, and location. Skynet, this is N5BB, RF check-ins.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. This is Brenda in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite, Planet Earth.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
India 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, KI5, JZM, Thomas and Euless.
This is Alpha Golf, Niner, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richards.
This is Kilo India 5, Zulu, Juliet, Zulu, Greg in Colleyville.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Ranch.
Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Okay, let's pause there. Recognize WB5OZL. Hello, Brenda. KF5JHA, Chaz. WB4MFA, I, Tad, WB4MFI, Ted. W5GUS, hello, Gus. KI5JCM, Thomas. AG9SG, hello, Antonio. NT5TM, Tony. NV5S, hello, Virginia. AA5AH, Robert. And Greg, please confirm your call sign in Colleyville. Is that Kilo India 5 Zulu India Zulu? Z-I-Z. Is that correct, Greg?
This is KI5 Zulu Juliet Zulu ZJZ. Greg in Colleyville.
We got it, Greg. KI5ZJZ. Sorry. And then, hello, Bill, KI5ZBL, Cody, K5MCD, and Tom, KE5ICX, the Marathon Man. So, do we have any other RF check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, India Victor Juliet, Justin, Mobile, Red Oak.
And KF5IVJ. Hello, Justin. So, before I move to the next section, are there any other RF check-ins? Last call for RF check-ins. There'll be time later on the net also. This is N5BB looking for RF check-ins for Skynet. Now let's look at Echolink. Let's see, KI5QAX. Luis and McKinney. Luis, do you want to check in? KI5QAX. Are you there, Luis? He must not be listening. Let's see, who isn't on RF? Oh, Kelly, K5KTX. Would you like to check in, Kelly?
This is Kilo 5 Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in point.
We have you, Kelly, P5KTX, Kelly in Point, Texas. One more, Joe, KG5ZMG. Would you like to check in?
Absolutely. Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf. This is Joe in Arlington.
We got you, Joe, KG5ZMG. Okay, that's all the Echolink. Does anyone else want to check in via any mode? If so, please come now. This is N5BB, Skynet. Nothing heard. Now let's look for general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for the net? These can be involved with amateur radio, astronomy, space, or something else of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign only. This is N5BB Skynet looking for general announcements. Very good, Tony. NT5TM, go right ahead.
Well, this is pretty short. We have a really interesting and strange afterglow movie tonight, La Jetée from 1962, an experimental French science fiction film consisting almost entirely of still images and music. There is a version with really good subtitles at archive.org, and also there's both English and French versions on YouTube. So I don't want to distract you from Skynet, but it's only 29 minutes long. You do have time to watch it before we discuss it at 10:30 plus or minus 5 minutes. Aaron and I are both fans. There is no fox hunting at White Rock Lake this weekend. There is no fox hunting. Our main fox leader got the flu, and we didn't. No, we don't feel bad about that. He needs to stay home and sleep. Hey, and we also got a bonus 5th weekend fox hunt last weekend, so, it all works out. And please don't forget that there is both a meeting on the air and a races training that tomorrow. Yep, 2024 is off to the races with our usual Sunday nuts with the Moda at 7. Every ham who likes to share what's going on in their ham world is welcome to check in. And our races training net at 8 p.m. Only races stations can check in. But you're all welcome to listen to me talk about what makes a good net control station, because I want you for Racy's net control. Anyway, we'll do that tomorrow, and La Jetée later tonight, NT5TM.
Thank you very much, Tony. Are there any questions about Tony's items or any other news items? If so, please come now. This is N5BB Skynet. Okay, I am checking in also Luis, KI5QAX, who I saw earlier on Echolink, and Philip, K5KOB, who I'm assuming is listening but can't transmit. So I've got both of you checked in. Next, I have a few more news items. The Cavanaugh Flight Museum is closed. That's right. The Cavanaugh Flight Museum at the Addison Airport lost their lease, and it's closed permanently. They plan to relocate the aircraft to the North Texas Regional Airport. This is the name of the airport. It was renamed a few years ago. It's between Sherman and Denison in Grayson County, so up closer to the Oklahoma border. It's up Highway 75. And you can find out more by going to the Cavanaugh Flight website, cavflight.org, and see. It's not clear when or if the museum will open again to the public. That's just not clear now. But they're closed now. You can't visit them at Addison Airport, and they're moving the aircraft up there to that other airport. Okay? Next item. Astronomers have discovered an extremely dense exoplanet, more than 500 light years from Earth. It's the size of Neptune, but it's 10 times denser, making it as dense as steel. It's named TOI 1853b. This planet orbits closely to its sun once every 1.24 days, which is rare for a body of that size. If it's the result of a Jupiter-sized planet losing outer layers of gas and dust from radiation, this may be the only way we can observe the interior of a gas giant planet. Next, India's Aditya-L1 space probe will arrive in a few days at the L1 Lagrange point. Next, some new news. Human remains are headed to the moon despite objections. The Navajo Nation has called for a delay in launching the commercial lander Peregrine, which is set to carry human remains on a private mission to the moon. On January the 4th, NASA's Kearns, that's the official's name, said the agency would take part in an intergovernmental team that would look into the issue and meet with the Navajo Nation. But Peregrine is a private mission. NASA, there is a lander which NASA has contracted to be there, but it's not a NASA mission, really. It's a private mission. Next, just some general news. Recent studies getting multiple doses of the COVID vaccine before an initial infection can dramatically reduce the chances of contracting long COVID. Long COVID is a real bummer. Okay. The AMSAT, Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 2 local nets. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. on this repeater, there's a net. It's Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. On nights we don't have a meeting. Usually Tom N5HYP is net control. All are welcome to check in. Then on Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, probably 147.14 megahertz, although it could move to the 440 repeater. There is the Dallas AMSAT West net, mainly for those in Tarrant County. That's 9 p.m. on Wednesday. Then there are nets all over the week. On Monday night, we have each week of the month. The first week we have Ham Fixings Net, then the Emergency Communication Net, then Ham Fixings Net. The fourth week we have Geek Net. If there is a fifth week, it's a surprise net. If we told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. Tuesday, again, as I mentioned, we have the AMSAT East Net on this repeater at 8 p.m. about satellites. Fridays, we have the CERT City Simulation Net at 8 p.m. on Fridays on this repeater. If anything can go wrong, it goes wrong at CERT City. Learn about emergency radio communications. This is N5BB, Skynet. On Saturdays, we have TechNet at 7 p.m. and, of course, Skynet at 9 p.m. And then at 10:30 p.m., we have the Afterglow Net. On the first and third Sundays, we have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, which means we have that net tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. And then after that, we have the Races Training Net at 8 p.m. Every day on this repeater, we have the ARL Early Traffic net, Training Net. That's at 6:30 p.m. At 9:30 p.m. on the Irving 146.72 repeater, we have the late ARL Traffic Net. All are welcome to check into any of these nets. Just wait and listen so you know when it's time to check in. Listen to what net control is about. La Jetée, the 1962 French film, KE5ICX and 5BB.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX, and Tony did mention a little bit about it. So here is my highly accurate synopsis. The time travel people weren't exactly all that smart. They had managed government funding, but with only a $35 grant, all they could afford was a Polaroid still camera and one roll of film. But it was enough, and our hero was transported back into time. Everyone hoped there was enough film to bring him back. Join us for the weird French short film about time travel. And by the way, this was also the inspiration for the movie 12 Monkeys, which came many years later. So there you have it. That's tonight at 10:30 p.m. It only takes about 30 minutes to watch the film. It's a short subject film, but it is unusual and interesting, and you may want to talk about it. Apparently, this is a thing. It is considered a classic. I had never heard of it until just, about a month ago. So we put it on the list of movies to see, and that's what we'll be talking about tonight. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom. As Tom, I think, said, it's weird. It's different. It may be confusing. That's okay. Watch it anyway. Okay. Do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, Skynet. Any more check-ins?
November 8, Whiskey Romeo, N8WWR, Romy. I'm here in Grapevine. I'm just in for your count there, Bill. Thanks for running that. NAWR.
Well, you always count, Romy. N8WWR, thank you. Okay, next we have Chaz is up. You've been waiting for him. He's up. Chaz, tell us about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. This is N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. I'm not sure who took over Skynet net control last week or the segments that I did, but I was 1,100 miles away from the repeater. It was kind of hard to hit it from there. So anyway, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, January the 26th. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is Ken Sturrock, and he's from the Denver Astronomical Society, talking about the Chamberlain Observatory. I believe we're going to go on a virtual tour. Saturday night public observing stations have continued. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing stations. I checked the Facebook page. It was a go. So on the first Saturday of the month, the stargazing is held at Fairview, and I understand, like I said, it was a go. So do we have any hams that are at the stargazing that would like to make a report? Come now with your call sign. Well, it may be over already since it got dark much earlier than the time right now. You can check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing stations. This is KF5JHA, back to our net control, N5BB.
Very good, Chaz. Do we have any questions, comments, or check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, next we have National Space Society events and activities. This is Bill, N5BB. I happen to be the membership director and the member at large for the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society, a nonprofit organization. If you have any questions about the National Space Society or our local chapter, please contact me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net, or N5BB at ARRL.net. The January meeting of the National Space Society of North Texas will be held on Sunday, January the 14th. That's a week from tomorrow at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving on Highway 183 at Beltline. The presentation will be by Ken Ruffin. Space 2024, the NASA commercial spaceflight and international missions scheduled in 2024. I will be at a National Space Society sponsored tour at Kennedy Space Center in Florida that weekend, so I won't be here. We have at least 2 people from our local chapter who are going to the tour at Kennedy Space Center. I'm driving because I've people I want to see on the way back. Then our National Space Society group sponsors an event which is open to anybody. It's the monthly Space Rendezvous. It's a social event held on the last Friday evening of each month at Cheddar's Restaurant on Highway 635 in Irving. This is a short distance east of MacArthur Boulevard on the south side of Highway 635. The next Space Rendezvous will be Friday, January the 26th at 6 to 8 p.m. You can discover more about National Space Society of North Texas chapter at ntx.nss.org. So the abbreviation for North Texas, ntx.nss.org. And the National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. Just look for National Space Society of North Texas. There are also other social media accounts. Just look for National Space Society of North Texas. Okay, do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, now you unfortunately get to listen to me a little longer because it's time for the discussion topic of the evening. This is from Scientific American Magazine. Stars don't slow down with age like astronomers thought. Middle-aged stars hit cruise control, stifling their magnetic fields and resisting the slowdown that scientists expected. This was published on the online Scientific American website. As stars spin, they exhale a constant breath of charged particles that latch on to the star's powerful magnetic field. Like a ballet dancer extending their arms, the magnetized stellar wind gradually slows the star's rotation. The idea that older stars spin slower has been an essential assumption in stellar astronomy for decades. But over the past several years, a team of astronomers has begun to rewrite the ballet of stars. The researchers have realized that around halfway through their lives, stellar dancers pull in their arms and maintain a steady spin for additional billions of years. In a new study accepted for publication in the Astrophysical Journal Letters, the scientists investigate where this transition takes place. And their work suggests that our sun, Sol, is already gearing up for its final tuck. The hypothesis has the potential to settle some long-standing mysteries about the sun and to aid the search for life beyond our solar system. This is N5BB, Skynet. The idea that stars hit cruise control rather than keep slowing down faced a lot of resistance from astronomers at first, but confidence has built recently. Observationally, the case is now compelling, said David Soderblom, an astronomer at the Space Telescope Science Institute, who was not involved in the new study and was initially skeptical of the proposal. The growing findings point to a gap in our understanding of how stellar magnetic fields evolve over time. That's a big deal. That's a whole aspect of solar physics that we're not in touch with. Soderblom adds, magnetic braking schematic. Scientists first recognized in the 1970s that a star's wind, the solar wind from a star, interacts with its magnetic field to create a magnetic braking effect that slows down its spin over time. In 2003, researchers started using this relationship to estimate a star's age by measuring its rotation. Now a widely used process known as gyrochronology. All along, scientists expected the relationship would hold for stars of all ages, although it had only been tested for stars younger than our Sun. Then, in 2016, Jennifer Van Sonders, an astronomer now at the University of Hawaii, spotted a surprise hiding in a sample of 21 stars captured by the Kepler Space Telescope. The rotations of the stars slowed as expected until the stars reached about the age of the Sun, after which the rotations leveled out. Something was deeply not what we expected, Van Sonders says. Basically, halfway through the lives of stars, the rotation fundamentally changes. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. Over the following years, Van Sonders and her colleagues expanded their gaze to tens of thousands of stars, checking these stars' rotations using different techniques, and the trend held up. The scientists now think that below a certain speed, the star's rotational force isn't strong enough to redistribute magnetic energy, and the star loses its ability to generate a large-scale magnetic field. Without a strong magnetic field, the stellar wind can't extend as far, and the star essentially cuts the brakes on its rotation. The team's newest, not yet published study incorporates extensive data from 51 Pegasi, famously the first Sun-like star found to be orbited by a planet outside of our solar system. The researchers pulled observations from a medley of telescopes to gauge the strength of the star's magnetic field and the amount of material released in its wind. Using additional measurements of the star's properties, they estimated the torque applied by the stellar wind, which they found is around 10 times weaker than what the old standard models predict. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. It's undoubtable, basically. They have all the ingredients, said Giulio Ciannami, an astronomer at the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile, who was not involved in the study. In June, Ciannami and his colleagues showed how the gyrochronology relationship breaks down for older stars by looking at pairs of stars with wide orbits, adding further credence to the weakened magnetic braking hypothesis. Together, the findings show that for grown-up stars, you can't quite guess their age simply by watching how fast they twirl. The onset of stellar cruise control also partitions stars into two distinct categories, those that are slowing down and those that aren't. The Sun appears to be right on the cusp of this transition, and Van Sonders and her colleagues suspect that it's having an identity crisis while settling into its stable state. This may explain its erratic, decades-long pauses in magnetic activity that have puzzled astronomers for centuries. This long-term quiescence in the Sun will become longer over time and more frequent over time until eventually the Sun is just kind of even keel, says Travis Metcalf, an astronomer at the White Dwarf Research Corporation, who co-authored the team's new paper. In that calmer regime, stars are less prone to violent outbursts of radiation, and plasma, that can wreak havoc on nearby planets, thus fostering more stable, conductive environments for life to take hold. Metcalf suggests future space missions could boost their odds of finding habitable exoplanets by narrowing their search to stars beyond this transition. So that would be stars older than the sun, our sun. Going forward, the scientists plan to investigate how quickly stars transition into their tighter twirls and what impact this has on their magnetic fields. We still have a lot of open questions, Von Sonder says, but one thing is now clear. Older ballerinas will still have some spin in them. So again, as stars get older, they slow down, but when they get roughly our sun's age, they kind of stop slowing down. Very interesting. Okay, this is in 5BB. Skynet is in progress. Does anyone want to... Next, hold on. It's time for Chaz again. What's up, Chaz? This is Skynet in 5BB Net Control.
Thank you, Bill. I don't think we've said this yet. Happy New Year. This is the first Skynet of the new year. Oh, Bob the cat is back. Oh, no. He was beside the computer. Oh, he's trying to get beside the computer right now. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks and beyond. That was slide number 1. I'm trying to push a cat away from the computer. Slide number 2, please. On January the 3rd, the moon phase was third quarter. So the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On January the 11th, the moon will be new. On January the 13th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 362,267 kilometers. On January the 17th is the first quarter phase of the moon. On January the 25th, the moon is full. On January the 29th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,777 kilometers. 777. Should go to Vegas with that. Slide Master, slide number 3. On the night of January the 3rd and the 4th was the Quadrantid meteor shower peak, but there could still be seen over the next few mornings several of the meteors. This meteor shower can have up to 120 meteors per hour at its peak just before dawn. Most of the time you can see the most meteors the hour before morning twilight because that's the side of the Earth that it's running into the debris left over by comets and asteroids. You can get more information about meteors and meteor showers at the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society, AMSmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. On January the 8th, the moon and the star Antares are in conjunction in the southeastern early morning sky. In fact, after sunrise, there's going to be a daytime occultation of Antares by the moon. The disappearance happens around 7:52 a.m., and the reappearance occurs about 9:13, almost 9:14 a.m. Now, that's predictions for Brookhaven campus of Dallas College. If you have a special computer-controlled telescope, and it's clear, although the prediction's supposed to be for rain on Monday morning, but if it is, you should be able to observe this occultation with the telescope. So I'm going to try it from Brookhaven campus if it's clear. Likelihood it's not going to be. Slide Master, slide number 5. A day later, on January the 9th, there's a conjunction of the moon and Mercury in the southeastern morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 6. On January the 13th, the moon and Saturn will be in conjunction in the southwestern evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 7, please. If you don't know what I'm talking about with slide numbers, on the video portion, mainly on YouTube, there's live video of Skynet, so I would go there if you'd like to find out what the video looks like. So on January, this is slide number 7, on January the, no. Did I do slide number 6? I don't think so. Slide number 6 is January 13th. The moon and Saturn will be in conjunction in the west-southwestern evening sky. Slide number 7, on January the 15th, the moon and Neptune will be in conjunction in the southwestern evening sky. You'll need a telescope to observe the planet Neptune. Slide number 8, on January the 16th, a conjunction of Venus and the minor planet Ceres will occur in the east-southeastern morning sky. You'll need a pair of binoculars to see the asteroid. On Slide Master, slide number 9, remember that we have another solar eclipse coming up in about 3 months. A solar eclipse is when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun. And for a very few lucky people on the Earth, some or all of the sun is blocked from our view. Slide number 10, on April the 8th, that is the total solar eclipse for us here in North Texas. From the Brookhaven campus of the Dallas College, the sun will be completely blocked out for around 3 minutes and 20 seconds between 1:41 and 1:44 p.m. During that time, called totality, you'll be able to see the stars in the sky just as if it were evening twilight. Not completely dark, but evening twilight. Now, the next total solar eclipse after that, visible from North Texas, won't be until the year 2317 on July the 9th. So get that on your calendar. So this total solar eclipse is a very big deal, so it only happens about once every 300 years in North Texas. In fact, all the downtown hotels, from my understanding, they've already been booked solid for the last couple of months anyway. So about the outlying suburb hotels still have some rooms. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 11, please. Actually, I think we're going to skip slide number 11. That's about the Texas Astronomical Society, and we've already talked about that. So slide number 12, please. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you need a fill or you have a question. Oh, hearing nothing. Slide number 13. So as the moon wanes right now, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for a world that's the only one where humans live, and until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5, JHA, back to our net control. Bill, N5BB, it's yours again.
Thank you there, Chaz, and hopefully the cat doesn't get into too much trouble. Bob's can be difficult. I know, I've got a brother named Bob. Okay, next, do we have any additional check-ins? This is N5BB. Skynet is in progress.
Hello.
Okay, somebody double with me. Are you trying to check into Skynet? If so, please come now with your call sign, name, and location. Nothing heard. Brenda, I believe it's your time for space exploration and space history. Thank you, Tom. WB5OZL. This is N5BB with Skynet. Take it away, Brenda.
Thank you, Bill. This is WB5OZL. First up in news, India launches X-ray astronomy satellite. India launched an astronomy satellite to start a year that will feature key tests for its human spaceflight program and a potential joint crewed mission with NASA. A Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, PSLV, lifted off at 10:40 p.m. Eastern, December 31st from the Satish Dhawan Space Center. It deployed its primary payload, the POSAT spacecraft into a 650-kilometer orbit about 22 minutes later. The 469-kilogram satellite carries 2 instruments to conduct X-ray polarimetry measurements. Astronomers plan to use the data collected by XPOSAT to study neutron stars, black holes, and supernovae. Next, for Astrobotic, a big risk and bigger reward ride on private Peregrine moon lander's January 8th launch. The upcoming liftoff of a moon lander, Peregrine Mission 1, is a nail-biter for many reasons. As a privately built spacecraft, it represents an undertaking advanced by NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services, CLPS, initiative. The Peregrine lunar lander was manufactured by Astrobotic, a Pittsburgh-based firm, and carries a variety of NASA and commercial payloads. So Pittsburgh could soon be considered a gateway to the moon, along with NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston and Florida's Space Coast. Helping to make this connection at Astrobotic's headquarters, there's an adjoining moonshot museum that offers the public first-hand looks at lunar lander development. Peregrine Mission 1 will launch from the Space Coast on January 8th on the first ever liftoff of United Launch Alliance's ULA New Vulcan Centaur rocket. The private moon lander is slated to touch down in late February, planting its legs at the moon's sinus viscositatis, bay of stickiness, and domes. The touchdown target is on the northeast border of Oceanus Procellarum, ocean of storms. Next, the X-59. NASA will provide live coverage as it reveals its X-59 aircraft at 4 p.m. EST on Friday, January 12th, as part of the agency's Quest mission to make commercial supersonic flight possible. For the first time, the public will see the painted aircraft, which will be unveiled during a ceremony hosted by prime contractor Lockheed Martin Skunk Works in Palmdale, California. The ceremony and rollout of the aircraft will stream live on the NASA Plus streaming service. Coverage also will air on NASA Television, the NASA app, YouTube, and on the agency's website. Birthday's a little thin this week. I think we only had 4. First one, Martin J. Fettman. He was born December 31st, 1956. His only mission was STS-58. Christopher Cassidy, born January 4th, 1970. He flew on STS-127, Soyuz TMA-08M Expedition 3536. Soyuz MS-16, Expedition 6263. Guy Gardner, born January 6, 1948. He flew STS-27 and 35. And Michael Foale, January 6, 1957. STS-45, 56, and 63. STS-84 up. Mir NASA 5. Mir EO 23 and 24, STS-86 down, STS-103, Soyuz TMA-3 Expedition 8. So we have some history items. The Lunar Prospector. On this day in 1998, and this was January 6th EST and January 7th UT, NASA's Lunar Prospector spacecraft launched from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Lunar Prospector, built for NASA Ames Research Center by Lockheed Martin, is a spin-stabilized spacecraft designed to provide NASA with the first global maps of the moon's surface and its gravitational magnetic fields, as well as look for the possible presence of ice near lunar poles. It will orbit the moon at an altitude of approximately 63 miles during a one-year mission. Lunar Prospector also carried the ashes of Dr. Eugene Shoemaker to the lunar surface at the end of its mission via Celestis Luna 01 flight. The space shuttle is in the news. On January 5th, 1972, President Nixon directed NASA Administrator James C. Flesher to develop the Space Transportation System, that's STS, the formal name of the Space Shuttle, the only element of the STG's recommendations to survive the budgetary challenges. The Space Shuttle flew from April 12, 1981 until July 21st, 2011. Throughout the program, the Space Shuttle had 135 missions, of which 133 returned safely. All right, back to net. This is WB50ZL.
Well, thank you, Brenda. Do we have any questions, comments, or additional check-ins? This is Skynet in 5BB, net control. Okay, time to be careful. Hold on to your funny bone. It's time for Chaz. Again, now we have Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week. Take it away, KF5JHA. This is N5BB. Skynet is in progress.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone, again. Bob the cat is safely at 1 foot away from the computer, but if I start laughing and trying to push him away, I might be briefly interrupted. Yes. We're on slide number 14. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellation this week is actually a twofer. Perseus the Hero and Camelopardalis, I just love, that's one of the names I love to say, Camelopardalis, the giraffe. Slide Master, slide number 15, please. Now, slide number 15 is the most important part of Skynet, as Bill alluded to, the jokes of the week. So here we go. You can laugh, boo, hiss, just don't fall asleep, please. Have you heard about the new color-changing superhero? You see, these jokes are all related to the constellation, so Perseus is a hero. So, have you heard about the new color-changing superhero? Yep, people call him the Hue Man. Is it Hue Man? Okay. What do you call a superhero completely made of ice? Just ice. Just ice. Okay. Who is Chaz's favorite comic book hero? Either called the Punster or better known as the Punisher. I think all of you agree with that. I respect giraffes. They're an animal we can all look up to. Why are giraffes so slow to apologize? Because it takes them a long time to swallow their pride. What do you get when you cross a giraffe and a pig? Bacon and legs. Slide Master, get me out of this with slide number 16, please. And this is KF5JHA, and we're in the middle of Skynet. Perseus is hero in the story, and we've talked about this story a long time, several times in the past. It's involving several other constellations, which include Cetus, the sea monster, Andromeda, the princess, Cassiopeia, the queen, Cepheus, the king, and of course, Pegasus, the flying horse. So let's talk about Perseus now. Slide Master, slide number 17. Algol, or Beta Persei, also known as the Demon Star, is one of the best-known stars in the sky. It was the first eclipsing binary star ever to be discovered and one of the first variable stars to be found. Beta Persei is, in fact, a triple star system composed of a primary star, Beta Persei A, which is eclipsing Beta Persei B. The apparent magnitude of the system is around 2.1, which drops off to 3.4 every 2 days, 20 hours and 49 minutes, and stays dimmer for about 10 hours, which is how long the eclipse lasts. A secondary eclipse occurs when the primary component occults the dimmer star. Algol is a prototype for a classification of stars known as the Algol variables. Algol system emits X-rays and radio wave flares. Algol has an apparent magnitude of 2.12 and is 92.8 light years in distance. It passed within 9.8 light years of our solar system about 7.3 million years ago, and its apparent magnitude at that time was minus 2.5, which is brighter than the star Sirius is in the sky if you go out and take a look at it tonight. Sirius is currently the brightest star in the sky, as I said, which I think is minus 1.5, if I remember right, magnitude. The next few minima, I didn't put the updated minima on my list. I'm so sorry. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 18, please. Perseus are NGC 869 and 884, the double cluster. Best seen in binoculars, these bright open clusters are easily visible to the naked eye as nebulous patches of light in northern Perseus with a dark sky away from city lights. NGC 869, and the brighter, the more concentrated of the two. It's about 30 to 35 arc minutes in diameter and is dominated by two bright orange stars near its center. NGC 884 is slightly larger but more scattered and has a bright orange star a little bit off-center. Each of these star clusters contain about 100 to 150 stars. We observe this on a regular basis from Brookhaven campus with just binoculars. Easy to do. Slide Master, slide number 19. M34, a large, bright, open cluster easily seen in a viewfinder and best seen in binoculars, composed of many bright stars and a sprinkling of fainter stars. It is about 40 arc minutes in diameter and moderately concentrated at its center. About 100 stars were counted. It looks like a slightly fainter version of either of these. Another Messier object, M76, is an interesting planetary nebula composed of two lobes, each given their own NGC number and commonly known as the Little Dumbbell Nebula. It resembles a smaller version of the famous nebula in Vulpecula, M76, which handles magnification well, and it appears to be rectangular in shape. The southwestern lobe of NGC 650 is the brighter of the two and is separated from the fainter lobe by a dark lanes of material, a remarkable object to take a look at. Let's go on to the next constellation, Camelopardalis. Slide number 21, please. Camelopardalis, the giraffe, is a relatively modern constellation, having been introduced by Flemish astronomer Pontius in 1612. The name Camelopardalis is the Latin for camel with leopard spots. A camel with leopard spots? Sounds like a giraffe to me. In fact, the scientific name for the giraffe is whatever it is. It looks like giraffe and Camelopardalis together. It's Latin. I haven't taken Latin for a long time. Slide Master, slide number 22, please. Beta Camelopardalis is the brightest star in Camelopardalis. even though it is beta and not alpha. Beta is magnitude 4, which shows how dim the stars in Camelot Pardalis are. Beta is a double star and is easy to split at low power. It is easy to split at 41 power in an 8-inch telescope, in fact. The primary star looks white and maybe just a touch of yellow, and the companion star looks bluish. Another double star, Camelot Pardalis 11 and 12, are located near Beta Camelot Pardalis. The challenge of the double stars 11 and 12 are being able to see them and split them with the unaided eye. Cam 11 is a dim magnitude 5.23, and Cam 12 is even dimmer at 6.21. If you're in very dark, clear skies with clear transparency, you might be able to see both of them naked eye. Putting it in the right limit with a human vision, right within the limit of human vision. Kepler and Sander describe Camelot Pardalis 11 and 12 as forming a wide pair of white and deep yellow stars from binoculars and small telescopes at low power. Slide master, slide number 23, please. Kimball's Cascade and NGC 1502. 1502 is a nice open cluster at one end of Kimball's Cascade. The Cascade is a long chain of about 20 unassociated stars first noticed by Kimball of Alberta, Canada. Kimball told Walter Scott Houston about the asterism and named it Kimball's Cascade in his honor. The name stuck. Kimball's Cascade is one of the objects in the Astronomical League Binocular Deep Sky Observing Club. Interestingly enough, NGC 1502 is not in that club, even though it is an easy binocular object. The cluster NGC 1502 itself has about 45 stars that together shine at about magnitude 6, so it's easily picked up in binoculars and finder scopes. An 8-inch telescope shows that all the cluster down to its faintest components, which include two interesting multiple stars, Struve 484 and 485. Contained within Struve 485, the system is a SZ Camelot Pardalis, which is an eclipsing variable star. Wow, a lot of interesting objects in this constellation. Slide master, slide number 24. Let's talk about one more. IC, it's an index catalog, IC. Usually most people say if you use the IC designation, it's something you have a hard time seeing. So IC 342 is a nice face-on spiral galaxy that was long thought to be possibly an outlier member of our own local group, according to Burnham's Celestial Handbook and Walter Scott Houston's Deep Sky Wonders. This was never for certain, since the galaxy is near the plane of the Milky Way and obscured by dust in our own galaxy made distance determination difficult. More recent observations have shown that while it is not a part of our local group, it is part of the Coma Sculptor cloud of galaxies, which includes our local group of galaxies. So it's not part of our local group, but it's close by. Similar to M33, IC 342 is a fairly large object with an overall brightness spread over a relatively large area of sky, which gives it a low surface brightness. Therefore, it's most easily observed on wide-field, short focal length ratio telescopes. However, once picked up, some of the structure is visible in most amateur telescopes. I think my 16-inch telescope might work for that one. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 25, please. There are a few more Astronomical League Observing Program objects in the constellation of Perseus, the Hero, and Camelot Pardalis, the Giraffe. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 77 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Perseus, the Hero, and Camelot Pardalis, the Giraffe. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at just a single constellation, Taurus the Bull. Oh, there could be some jokes with that one I can use next time. This is KF5, Chase, sending it back to our net control. Thankfully, Bob the Cat is laying, sleeping just a foot away. Bill, it's all yours, N5BB.
Well, thank you very much, Chaz. Do we have any additional check-ins, questions, or comments? This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. Tom, we're reasonably early. You want to zip through space launches pretty quickly in 5BB.
Yeah, I can do that, Bill. This is KE5ICX. Let's see, tomorrow, January 7th, we have a Falcon 9 launch. Surprise, surprise. Starlink 6-35. This is from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of second-generation Starlink V2 mini-internet satellites. Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on the drone ship a shortfall of gravitas in the Atlantic Ocean. January 7th, 8th, also Falcon 9 Starlink 7-10. This one will launch from SLC-4E at Vandenberg out in California. This rocket will launch another batch of satellite internet, Starlink internet satellites from Space Launch Complex 4 East, SLC-4E in fact. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on a drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, in the Pacific Ocean. Now this one was mentioned earlier, the Vulcan Centaur Peregrine mission. That's from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral. The Vulcan Centaur rocket will launch on its inaugural flight with the Peregrine commercial lunar lander Astrobotic. The Peregrine lunar lander will carry multiple instruments, scientific instruments and experiments, and tech demo payloads for NASA and other customers. The mission will also launch 2 prototype satellites, Amazon's Kuiper broadband constellation. This Vulcan Centaur rocket will fly in the VC-2S configuration, which has 2 GEM 63XL solid rocket boosters, a short-length payload fairing, and 2 RL-10 engines for the Centaur upper stage. Next, January 17th, Flex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. This will be a Crew Dragon spacecraft on the program's 13th flight with astronauts. This is a commercial mission managed by Axiom Space and is commanded by former NASA Commander Michael Lopez Algeria. 3 passengers, which are Walter Viadre, Alfred Grazzici, and Marcus Lant, will fly on this 2-week commercial mission to the International Space Station. First stage booster will return to landing zone 1, Cape Canaveral. January 29th is another Falcon 9, SLC-40, Cape Canaveral. This Falcon 9 will launch Northrop Grumman 21st Cygnus cargo freighter on the 20th operational cargo delivery flight to the International Space Station. The mission is known as NG-20. The launch vehicle for this mission was changed from Northrop Grumman's own Antares 230 Plus rocket to SpaceX Falcon 9 after the Russian invasion of Ukraine ended the engine and booster production for the Antares program. Give you 2 more. We have another launch to be determined. This is USS F-51. This will be SLC-41 launch site at Cape Canaveral. United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket designated AV-101 will launch the USS F-51 mission for the U.S. Space Force. This mission will launch with an undisclosed payload for the military. Then finally, the Falcon 9, surprise, surprise, launch of PACE. This is from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This Falcon 9 rocket will launch NASA's Plankton Aerosol Club Ocean Ecosystem mission, sometimes called, or better known as PACE. The spacecraft is equipped with instruments to assess the health of oceans by measuring the distribution of phytoplankton, tiny plants, and algae. Okay, Bill, I'm going to send it back to you at this point. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, do we have any questions, comments, or additional check-ins? This is Skynet, N5BB, net controller. Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, can you tell us about the recent astronomical discoveries? This is N5BB, Skynet.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL. This article is entitled Designing the Perfect Meal to Feed Long-Term Space Travelers. Imagine blasting off on a multi-year voyage to Mars, fueled by a diet of bland, pre-packaged meals. As space agencies plan for longer missions, they're grappling with the challenge of how to best feed people. Now, researchers reporting in ACS Food Science and Technology have designed an optimal space meal, a tasty vegetarian salad. They chose fresh ingredients that meet male astronauts' specialized nutritional needs and can be grown in space. Astronauts in space burn more calories than humans on Earth and require extra micronutrients, such as calcium, to stay healthy during extended exposure to microgravity. Additionally, future long-term missions will require growing food in a sustainable, circular way within the spacecraft or space colonies. While researchers have explored methods of growing food in space and what nutrients astronauts require to stay healthy, specific fresh meals have not been developed. So, Volker Hessel and co-workers wanted to optimize a space meal that meets those unique requirements of spaceflight and tastes good. First, the researchers assessed combinations of fresh ingredients using a method called linear programming, which computationally balances different variables to meet a specific goal. In this case, their model identified how well the combinations of different foods could meet a male astronaut's daily nutritional needs while minimizing the water required to grow the foods. The team was also concerned about the sustainability of the foods in space, selecting ingredients that need little fertilizer, time, and area to grow, and whether inedible portions could be recycled. Of the 10 scenarios the researchers examined, they found that a vegetarian meal made up of soybeans, poppy seeds, barley, kale, peanuts, sweet potato, and our sunflower seeds provided the most efficient balance of maximal nutrients and minimal farming inputs. While this combination couldn't quite provide all the micronutrients an astronaut needs, those missing could be added in a supplement, the researchers suggest. To make sure that the identified combination was tasty, the team whipped up the ideal space meal as a salad for 4 people to taste test here on Earth. One tester gave rave reviews and wouldn't mind eating this all week as an astronaut. Other people were more muted in their praise, even though they went back for second helpings. In the future, researchers plan to see what their computer model dishes up as options for female astronauts and expand the variety of crops in their database. Yuck. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Tom, KE5ICX. I think we have time for a few visible satellite passages to use up the time before 10:30. Go ahead, Tom. KE5ICX N5BB. When can we see a satellite?
All right, I can do that, Bill. First, there was a double, so I think you have a check-in, and I'll do it right after that.
I'm sorry. Check-ins, please come now. This is N5BB, Skynet. Does anyone have a comment, a question, or a check-in? Please come now. This is N5BB, Skynet. Well, I don't see anybody new on Echolink, so who knows, Tom? Take it away, Tom, N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. I'll go ahead and get started here. We have coming up, here, bring this up, get distracted, there's a check-in, and here we go. Okay, the International Space Station has several good passes coming up. January 13th is the first good one I see, which is kind of into next week, but there'll be a minus 3.0 magnitude at 1841 in the morning out of the south-southwest. Reaches highest point at 36 degrees at 1844, and it'll fall to the southeast at 1845. Now that one goes in shade, but or shadow, I should say, but the January 14th is pretty good. Minus 2.3 magnitude, 1929 in the evening, in the west-southwest. Reaches its highest point 31 degrees. In the northwest, and it'll fall to 1932 at 31 degrees. Then January 15th, we have minus 3.4 magnitude, 1840 in the evening, reaches its highest point at 58 degrees at 1843, and it falls to 1845 to the northeast. Next up is Tiangong, that's the Chinese space station. I believe there are 3 tachinauts on board right now. Here are their pass. Here is that pass. January 8th is, actually there's 2. The better one is the first at minus 1.2 magnitude at 1824 in the evening. Reaches its highest point at 34 degrees at 1827. Falls to the east at 1829. January 9th, the following night at minus 2.0 magnitude. This one's really good. 1857 in the evening out of the west-southwest. Reaches its highest point at 1900 at 61 degrees and falls to the north-northeast at 1901, but it does go into a shadow. This one's a minus 2.0 magnitude, even better yet. 1857 in the evening, out of the west-southwest, reaches highest point 61 degrees. Did I say this earlier? 1900? Yeah, I did. Let's see, January 11th, minus 1.3 magnitude at 1826 in the evening. Reaches its highest point 39 degrees at 1829, falling to at 1832 to the northeast. Let's see, I'll give you a couple on the Hubble. There's more here than I wish to talk about, but hang on a second. So let me give you January 11th. There's past 1.5 magnitude at 1915 in the evening. Reaches highest point at 1855, so it's coming out of shadow. Well, maybe not. Maybe a little bit out of shadow, out of the south, and it'll fall to the south-southeast at 19, 36 degrees. January 13th has a pretty good pass, 1.6 magnitude at 1841. Reaches highest point at 1845 at 42 degrees out of the south, and it'll fall at 1848, 60 degrees. So let's see here. Let me give you January 14th. There are 2 passes. The better one is the first at 1.6 magnitude at 1824. Reaches its highest point at 1828, 43 degrees. Falls to the southeast at 1832. And finally, January 15th. I know you're tired of all my numbers. 1.7 magnitude at 1807 in the evening. Reaches its highest point at 43 degrees at 1811. And it falls to the east-southeast at 1815. All this information is available, including amateur radio satellites as well, with all of the Kepler information that you need by going to heavens-above.com and plugging in your longitude, latitude, or you can even put in your city, even your local town that you live in, and it will give you the coordinates that you can save, and then you can go through and check everything that they do present. That's it, Bill. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Do we have any additional check-ins, questions, or comments before I close the net? This is the 73 round. Time for you to do anything you want to do here on the net before we close it. This is N5BB, Skynet, looking for check-ins.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha.
N5 SQA. Hello, Ron. Do we have any other check-ins? Well, Ron, you evened it up to 25 check-ins exactly tonight. Thank you very much. Good to hear you. And Happy New Year. So, tonight we had 25 check-ins. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you join here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We are always looking for net control stations for this and all other Dallas Amateur Radio Club nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls or send a message to nets@w5fc.org. That's NETS at W5 Fox Fried Chicken, Whiskey 5 Fried Chicken.org. Excuse me. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general, Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB Bill, closing the net early at 10:27 p.m. Central Standard Time, returning a repeater at normal use. Tom, Key 5ICX. Tom, I will be out of town next week at the Tour Kennedy Space Center. So if you don't mind, can you go into the script tonight and copy all of my Skynet all of my National Space Society section? Everything I've got in there is still applicable next week. So if you don't mind, can you copy and paste my National Space Society section into next week's script? And then I won't have to worry about it. Is that okay? That's all I got. N5BB, turning over to you, Tom, for Afterglow.
All right, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. I'll do that at the conclusion of our evening net stuff. Okay, very good. For everybody else, you are going to stick around for tonight's Afterglow movie. Very short film, La Jetée, from 1962. We'll be back here in about 5 minutes. So let's take a break and come on back in 5. This is KE5ICX. See you then.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
All right, run back to the radio. It's time for the next net. This one is the Afterglow Movie Net. What's the Afterglow Movie Net? Well, if you're listening, you probably already know. This is where we assign a movie 1 week ahead of time. You get to watch it, and then you get to critique it after you check in, of course. Our films are generally science fiction, although they sometimes run science fantasy, and sometimes even just weird, wonky stuff that happens to be on the internet for free. Generally speaking, they are professional films, although they sometimes are unprofessionally produced by professionals. So this week's movie is an unusual film. It is a 1962 French science fiction featurette directed by a guy whose pseudonym is Chris Marker. He's actually very French, and associated with the Left Bank Artistic Movement. This is during the 1960s. Constructed almost entirely from still photos, it tells the story of a post-nuclear war experiment in time travel. It is only 28 minutes long and shot in black and white. It won the Prix Jean Vigo for short film. I guess that's the French art film award. And 1995 science fiction film 12 Monkeys was inspired by and borrowed several concepts directly from La Jetée. Now, to get us warmed up, I'm going to give you the plot synopsis here, the real one. And then after that, you'll get a chance to check in. When you check in, we'll be asking, we could do probably 3 rounds, something like that, talking about the plot, what did you think about it, the acting and characterization, that's the second round. The third round is the technical aspects of the film, the music, the lighting, the sound, the special effects, in this case, probably techniques that were used, all of that. Is available, or anything that you missed on the first 2 rounds. So here we go. I'm going to give you the plot. This is courtesy of Wiki. A man is a prisoner in the aftermath of World War III in a post-apocalyptic Paris, where survivors live underground in the Palais des Galleries. Scientists research time travel, hoping to send test subjects to different time periods to call past and future to the rescue of the present. They have difficulty finding subjects who can mentally withstand the shock of time travel. The scientists eventually settle upon the protagonist. His key to the past is a vague but obsessive memory from his pre-war childhood of a woman he had seen on an observation platform, the Jetty, at Orly Airport, shortly before witnessing a startling incident there. He did not understand exactly what happened, but he knew he had seen a man die. After several attempts, he reaches the pre-war period. He meets a woman from his memory, and they develop a romantic relationship. After his successful passages to the past, the experimenters attempt to send him into the far future. In a brief meeting with the technologically advanced people of the future, he is given a power unit sufficient to regenerate his own destroyed society. On his return, with his mission accomplished, he discerns that he has to be executed by his jailers. He is contacted by people of the future who offer to help him escape to their time permanently. But he asks instead to be returned to the pre-war time of his childhood, hoping to find the woman again. He is returned to the past, placed on the jetty at the airport, and it occurs to him that the child version of himself is probably also there at the same time. He's more concerned with locating the woman and quickly spots her. However, as he rushes to her, he notices an agent of his jailers who has followed him and realizes the agent is about to kill him. In his final moments, he comes to understand that the incident he witnessed as a child, which has haunted him ever since, was his own death. Okay, so the film plays out as a photo montage, and only continuously variable is the sound. Sound used in the production is minimal, showing up in the form of narration, orchestral score, and sound effects. Rhythmic patterns of the soundtrack act as a framework to add to the intensity of the film. The dissolve is synchronized with the sound. As the story moves from past to the present, La Jetée creates mental continuity. The soundtrack adds to the illusion of movement within the film and change of time. So I thought I'd just mention that because it is an unusual production, and there's a great deal that could be discussed about that, if you're interested, of course. All right, I've given you the synopses, so now comes the time where you get it to maybe check in and talk about the film. So here we go. I'll take check-ins. That will be your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, La Jetée, from 1962. So let's get started. Please come in and check. Please come with check-ins.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, here in East Dallas. Yes, Aaron and I have both seen this movie.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford. I have seen the film.
November 5, Sierra, Quebec Alpha, Ron, East Dallas. No, I have not seen the movie.
Okay, let me go ahead and get those check-ins. I've got NT5TM, Tony. He did see the film. KG5BZW, Jay near Rutherford. Yes, he saw the film. N5SQA, Ron in East Dallas. No, he did not see the film, but Ron, I highly recommend it. I think you would like it. Additional check-ins, please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas. Yes, I saw it.
Okay, I've picked up two more. I've got N5BB, Bill, over in Irving. He saw the film. And WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, over in Dallas. She saw the film. Anyone else before we get started? Okay, without further ado, we will get moving here. Tony, NT5TM. Tony, I think, I forget, somebody in our group recommended this film. It might have been you. I know that this is a favorite of yours, so please go ahead. Tell us what you thought about La Jetée from KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. This was a movie that Erin suggested years ago, back when she was still on Facebook. And I'm not sure how it finally came up on the rotation, but we're both really glad it did. It was short and intense and very interesting. We paid attention. Erin's not feeling well today, but she stayed awake. It really did get us, and it was a very interesting movie. The plot really, so many things belong in round 2 or 3. But just speaking only of the plot, it made us pay attention, and it is important to remember that this was 1962. These what a twist things where time goes in a loop were new. They hadn't been invented yet. It was completely surprising. Even though we had both seen this movie years ago, and it's like, we're pretty sure there's something involving death going on here, we were still paying attention right up until the end. So I'm going to give the plot an A, and I'll talk more about characters and technique in rounds 2 and 3. So it's a short film, but it was an intense short film, and we got a great chance earlier this evening to remember why we remembered it. Good job, filmmakers. NT5TM.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tony. Now, everybody who's listen up, because this is one of these films that is kind of, how would I describe it? Kind of bottom-heavy, perhaps? That we got a lot that we can talk about technique and characterization and all of that. So be careful when you discuss the film, because it's very easy to get into the mechanics of it. We're talking about plot only right now. We'll get into some of the juicy parts here on the second and third round. So next up is Jay, KV5BZW. Welcome back, Jay. Happy 2024 to you. What did you think about the plot for our film La Jetée from 1962 from KE5ICF?
This is KQ5BGW. Just say I like the story. As far as its execution with the film, well, I feel like it actually, my complaints go into the other rounds, so I can't really complain about anything really much here. Overall, there were bits that annoyed me, but you know, I have to separate that from the story itself, which I have to say maybe. There was a couple, but I felt it was enough. I actually had to stop watching after 20 minutes because I was just, I had been annoyed a little bit too much by, I don't know, one thing or another. It doesn't, to be honest, I think having watched 12 Monkeys before this, I think part of my annoyance was, well, okay, I knew this was somewhat related to this, and it kept on triggering back to memories of 12 Monkeys, so it's not really even a problem with the story per se, as just, you know, the method around it, the fact that, you know, in the past, how many years it's, you know, we've had the 12 Monkeys and other stuff that's similar. But anyway, I really can't complain much about the story itself, and I'm trying to think of anything good to say, but it's such a short thing. I feel like I'm dancing around something. There was something that annoyed me about the plot, but I feel like I have to watch it again to get to it. It's like, no, I actually just want to watch 12 Monkeys now. So, you know, no, I don't hate it. I kind of like it, but I don't really like it. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it again or not. I think I've had my say. The next person, KG5BGW.
All right, very good, Jay. And yeah, well, you know, and we'll get into the technical aspects of the film, but you know, this is a film that will invoke a visceral response, and because it's somewhat avant-garde the way it's presented, some people aren't going to like it and reject it out of hand. It's not a conventional film as we've seen conventional films in the past. My reaction was a little different, but it is not completely alien to what you were talking about. Okay, I'm going to skip over Ron. Ron's listening, but maybe I'll come back to him in a little bit and see if he's intrigued about the film. after we get a few more comments. So we'll go on to Bill, N5BB. Bill, thank you for doing the net this evening, the Skynet. And now it's your opportunity. What do you think? Was that case story good enough for you? And what did you like about it or dislike about it from KE5ICX?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. By the way, for people who might be listening in, this is the Afterglow net run on the 88W5FC Dallas Amateur Radio Club repeater. There were some things about the plot that confused me because I had to think about point of view. So if you think about it, the plot is essentially all in the point of view of the protagonist. However, it seems to be narrated by a third-party narrator. It describes the protagonist in the third party. So that's a little interesting. It's like a narrator that seemed to have some outside knowledge describing the protagonist, but everything they were describing was really from the point of view of the protagonist. So because of this, I got a little confused by some things, and I've got to think about how to interpret the plot. So he meets the girl on what they describe as the 30th day. And I was trying to think about, what does the 30th day mean? Does it mean that his body, being injected with things and with electrodes on his eyes, was laying there for 30 days in the future, in the post-apocalyptic World War III universe at that point? If so, were they feeding him intravenously? How is he surviving there? 30 days. Or was it from his point of view that he existed in the past for 30 days when he finally met the girl? It doesn't show 30 days of experiences. It just says on the 30th day. So it's non-linear, let's put it that way. And then later they say on the 50th day, he meets the girl at the museum with all the animals, and they go through it with all those things. And so there's some non-linearity going on there, and some, it may be selective telling. In other words, the narrator doesn't have to be telling us about everything that happened. They could just say, well, on the 30th day this happened, and on the 50th day this happened. But I had a hard time figuring out the point of view of the word day, the 30th day. It's a time-related thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The future part of the plot was really weird. And the fact that the future people seemed to want to communicate with him in the past and that they could go back. And the narrator that was describing the movie was telling us these things. They were telling us that the future people could go back to the past, which was also kind of weird. The protagonist may not have known that, but the narrator did. And then, of course, we have the end of it, which is kind of the loop. And to me, that's more straightforward. It's those other things that were really weird to me, the parts in the middle. Of course, parts of this kind of remind me of Nazi science experiments in concentration camps during World War II. This is N5BB. And I'm sure that's what, drove the authors of this thinking about those things. Because evidently a lot of the subjects here were dying doing this experimentation. Also, through the movie, up until the end, and maybe even including the end, I had a basic worry about whether this was all like a dream. Was this imagined? Because the movie starts with his imaginings. It's the way he's describing it. Or was he really traveling to the future and the past? And does it make sense to talk about that difference? Because the narrator is presenting it from the protagonist's point of view. So from his point of view, it may have been real, even though it may have been just memories, including the memory of his death. That could have been just a memory, he may not have really gone back in time. That's all I got for now, N5BB. I'm confused and interested, intrigued.
All right, thank you, Bill. I'm just going to make a short comment. I think you get it, that it's a slippery slope on this film, and I think that's one of its enduring qualities. But I'll make my comments at the end. Next is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your comments about the plot for tonight's movie, The Afterglow La Jetée, from KE5ICX.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. Well, it was a fairly complicated plot. I had to read up on the film to understand it a little better. So in the movie, they didn't just necessarily explain everything that was going on. But, here we go again, another apocalyptic movie that if we don't straighten up, we're going to blow ourselves to kingdom come. And it'll be very apocalyptic, and we're all going to be real miserable. So you better quit doing what you're doing. I get a little tired of some of those preachy shows so much. But, it is what it is. They're making a movie about the world. I keep wanting to drift into characters, but I'll try and resist that. The time travel, boy, we just really seen a lot of time travel movies. This one was unusual because time traveler didn't climb into a machine and go there. They were very unclear as to how this worked and how you knew where you were going and how you got back. And they were very unclear on the concept of you got to go get something that's going to help us. I don't know how you could bring it back. So, I think I enjoyed it. I would probably see it again. The characters were interesting, and the whole concept is interesting. When I heard about the still pictures, I thought, oh, that's not going to work. But it's amazing how well it worked, how well they did it. Okay, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okie dokie, thank you, Brenda. I know it's difficult to separate this into its constituent pieces because they're kind of intertwined. Okay, before I make any comments, I'll go ahead and see if there are additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, even if you haven't seen the movie, it's okay. Actually, it's just a short film. It's only 30 minutes long, 28 minutes, I think. So, movie, yeah, very short one. Le Jeté from 1962. If you've seen it, great. If you haven't, that's okay too. I'll take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see this film?
Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this film.
Okay, very good. We picked up Sean, KB9 SOK. I just want to make that a 5, so I'm sure you're used to that, Sean. KB9 SOK. So, Sean, I'll let you go ahead and make your comments. We are on the first round. What did you think about the plot for our film, since you did see it from KE5ICS?
I did find it interesting. I kind of have mixed feelings about this film, like a few of you. Just because the plot to me was pretty, it just really didn't explain it as much as it should. I don't know when it comes to time travel how injecting somebody with a chemical will make them magically travel through time without their body, but yet reappear someplace in time with their body, but yet their body's still back at the original time. Including what they were wearing, because at one point he even talked about the necklace he made while he was in the camp, about his girlfriend asking him about it. So that was, kind of weird. So that's why I kind of lean towards this. None of this really happened. I feel that it was just the drugs and what have you. Was, dreams can be pretty vivid, and if you had drugs on top of it, I'm sure that it could get really wild. So was he just dreaming about what he would have liked to have happened? Which I think, as it's already been mentioned, I think it's the point of this film. Was it really happening, or was he just dreaming it? I kind of lean towards he was just dreaming it, because, just technology-wise, there's just no way that would even remotely work. Not unless I just don't see how that could possibly function at all. And yeah, exactly what was, I think as Bill said, how do you bring things back and forth? How would he bring back technology to help them? I mean, obviously, that would even make sense. I guess other than maybe memorizing some schematics, maybe, but maybe not physically bringing it back is what they meant. So, yeah, that part, it was kind of, to me, there wasn't enough there. And then they kind of kept insinuating they could see what he could see. So I guess that's what the electrodes are for on his eyes. But all this was pretty vague. Now, as far as, obviously the World War III thing, yeah, we've seen it a million times, especially in this time frame. But after all, of course, that was still a very hot topic back then. Just like, we got 5 million terrorist movies now that are on, because that's the latest thing going on in our world today. So that I get. And as far as just the kind of the plot following the time loops, if it really did happen, that part was kind of interesting. And so I did. Part of it did intrigue me, and then part of it was a little bit annoying, to be quite honest. And I think the film was probably perfectly well timed, because quite honestly, had the plot drug out longer, I think it could have really been annoying. But so yeah, I kind of got a love-hate relationship with this particular film. Parts of it I like, part of it kind of annoyed me. So anyway, that's all I got for this round. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. And I wrote some notes from just about everybody who had something to say, because there's plenty to glob onto here, I think. Anyone else want to check in, or have anyone? Well, let me just make it simple. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now. Okay, hearing none. I actually, all my notes come from everybody else's comments, so here we go. Not in any particular order, by the way. I kind of wrote things down across the margin here in my spiral. But first off, the first thing I have listed is the time travel thing. And what does that actually mean in the storyline? Well, since nobody has ever traveled in time, we don't know the methodology involved. I mean, just from a pure mechanical standpoint, we don't know how time travel would work. We think that it could exist, but time zero won't allow us to go back in time. So, at least as far as we can tell from what's described in physics. But if that's the case, or even if, since we don't know how it would work, if it really does work, although we haven't met any time travelers anywhere so far. And even I think the University of Michigan actually did a study and went so far as to check Google searches now that we've had the internet for, 30 years, to see if anybody did any future things on Google searches or searches of future events back in the past. They found nothing. So no time travelers hanging around from the 1990s on. Because of that, there's no rules. How would you go back in time? Well, one of the things you could do is it could be a dream sequence, which somebody mentioned. Maybe it didn't actually happen. Or if it does happen, it's some sort of metaphysical thing. It's not something that transcends the physical capabilities. Is it drug-induced? Yeah, we know that there's some sort of drugs involved in this. Would this make it actually happen? Or is it part of that dream sequence? Certainly it could be something along those lines. I don't know. That alone makes it quite interesting and difficult to understand. I believe this is deliberately done in the film because this guy, who is the director and created the film, has a tendency to want to do that. He wants to take and mesh things together. That the reality is not the reality that is the real world, but so much as what the film reality becomes. Even some of his works, as I learned later on, is exactly where he goes in his storytelling. It is not real, but it is real. It's an observed observation of perceived reality. Take it back and layer it back a little bit, which gets, for some people, it's very annoying, and for other people, it's a fascinating thought study, and for others, it's pure garbage. But that's art, isn't it? Using World War III as an example, yes, that's been done a bazillion times. 50s films were done like that, and then in the 80s, later on, of course, we have the advantage of looking back from 2023. The destruction of the world is very much on everyone's mind, and certainly is a powerful force, especially at the time that this film was made. It was shortly after World War II. Was still in the minds of many people, and we're aware of it, and the idea that we could blow each other up was still very, very powerful image. And that has faded. I don't know if rightfully it should have faded, because the threat is still there regardless. But at that point, the fact that we could destroy everything on Earth seemed like a potential reality, and indeed we think it is now. So using that as a storyline, years ago, probably will get your attention pretty quickly, whereas today it's been done to death, and we don't think of it in the same terms, even though maybe we should. Just my opinion. The narration part, Bill mentioned that. I thought that was really interesting, and we've seen films, and I know of films like that. One of my favorites is with what appears to be a third-party narration, but because the person is dead. Sunset Boulevard did that, where at the very beginning, the William Holden character is dead. He's floating in the pool. That's at the very beginning. The person who is the protagonist in this thing is already dead, and it's seen as a series of flashbacks. But he's describing his own death, so what the heck does that mean, The other thing, too, is perspective, and that has, we'll go into characterization later on, but perspective always has something to do with it. The narration, the narrating part affects the story, and who is who is telling the story and what is their point of view. Bill, great observation. And I think this film is another example of that sort of thing. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why people keep talking about it, is there's so much left to interpretation that you get kind of lost in the thought process that goes with it, rightly or wrongly. I mean, it can also annoy you to death because it doesn't fill out, it doesn't explain. Is that laziness? Is that intentional? Is it economical? All those things play into it, but that's another round. Okay, let's go back to the top of the list and we'll talk about characterization and the acting, which should be kind of interesting because it's a series of still frames with the exception of one short sequence. So we'll start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your thoughts on the acting and characterization for our fine film, Le Jeté from 1962.
Oh, so much to talk about. I want to particularly commend Bill N5BB. I really enjoyed his commentary last round. I think he just perfectly enjoyed this movie in the way it was meant. Because, yeah, this is not meant to be a very easy or simple movie. You know, I often find when I look back at my own memory that there are really a couple of kinds of memory. There are very image memories, you know, oh, a tree silhouetted against the sun. And there are those moving picture memories. Oh, a grounder hit right to shortstop, and I was the shortstop, and it went right between my legs. And most movies, of course, cater towards the moving memories, and it really was great to see one that catered toward these snapshots. It also made me think of Ken Burns with his Civil War documentaries. All that image panning and zooming in and out, it wasn't quite as new as I thought. In this case, I think Aaron and I have about three things to say about characters. I found the weird eye patches with the little tubes going in and out of them especially creepy. Man, that was really something for me. Aaron really was more horrified by the person with these strange lenses over their eyes. The one of the scientist characters. We both enjoyed the contrast between the German and French. You know, very, very different languages. Really great touch. I know more German. Aaron knows more French, so that was even perfect for us. As I'm hearing these bits of words about das Mädchen, the girl, and die Vergangenheit, the past, and Aaron is translating the French. That was kind of fun. A little bit of local characters here at home. But the real wonderful, just wonderful part of character in this movie is the unreliable narrator. Now, of course, the classic movie narrator is someone you can basically trust. If they say they robbed a bank, then they really robbed a bank. And, of course, other people, you know, writers, directors, introduce a little bit of unreliability. Is this really what happened? You know, are they lying? Are they saying, I didn't mean to rob the bank, when in fact they totally did, and they're, you know, like a memoir, they're being self-justifying? But as both Bill and Tom touched on, this movie has the perfect unreliable narrator as a protagonist because, in fact, the narrator doesn't even know if they're being honest. Is time travel even possible? We're not sure. Are the camp guards engaging, if the camp even exists, in just as much wishful thinking as the protagonist is? We don't know. It's happening. We can't tell. It's the perfect unreliable narrator as the protagonist. We're not being lied to, we're not being misled, we're not being tricked. We are just as confused as the protagonist is. We're just as surprised as the protagonist is. And I think for Aaron and I, that's what makes this such a movie worth thinking about. NT5TF.
Nice. Thank you, Tony. Next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on characterization and acting, if you'd like, for Le Jeté from 1962. This is KE5ICX. Go ahead.
KG5BZW. I don't know if there's much I can contribute that hasn't already been said. Lots of good words by, I'm just blanking out, NT5TM. And others. But, I don't know. I mean, acting-wise, well, okay, you got the. I feel like you've only got the narrator, which I don't. What? It just maybe it was because he was reliable. I don't know. There's just something about the way it was done that just kind of annoyed me. To be honest, the montage was getting old. I remember liking like the Kim Burns style narration and how the stories developed through there. Here, it just kept on waiting on. Maybe this is more plot stuff that I should have said earlier, but I was kind of hoping for, when would there be an actual movie? And there was actually a brief sequence. I believe the woman was blinking or something that was caught in motion, which was actually pretty cool. But, again, now I'm dancing all over the place. But it's weird to consider some of the other characters that are being narrated upon as actors, even though, yeah, I suppose you could say they are. It's just, but when they don't do any acting, well, okay, are the people special effects? What's going on? This film seems to break our format here, because I don't know how to discuss a lot of stuff. I had to think for a sec there, and I'm still not coming up with much. Maybe I should just go ahead and, well, before I do it, I know that this, I'll just say something in relation to those comments. And remember, there's a film called oh crap, I think it was called Something in Time. I'm messing up some here. Somewhere in Time. Yeah, with Christopher Reeve and the lady, I can't remember her name. The plot in terms of going back in time kind of happens kind of similarly. It's not self-hypnosis here. It's some other kind of weird drug interaction. I was trying to look up the origins of, like both of these films, ideas about going back in time, but that's probably, that would take more than a few minutes, I think. because I didn't really get much. Other than that, so it's something that I guess we as viewers on this net have dealt with before. Granted, that film that I was speaking of, was made in the early 80s versus this being made in the 60s, so, anyway. I got nothing else to say. KG5BCW, back to net.
All right, thank you, Jay. And this is KE5ICX. Yeah, the movie you're thinking of course, is Somewhere in Time, which you remembered. Steve Reeves and Christopher Reeves and was it James Moore? I think was in it. The story was written by Richard Matheson, who's no stranger to science fiction topics. He was one of the lead writers that wrote for Twilight Zone. And, of course, he wrote this very much like a long version of the Twilight Zone episode. And that was the way he traveled through time, was through a mental juxtaposition, I guess. And, of course, he comes to realization that he's not really back in time when he produces a penny from the 1960s and realizes he's not at the turn of the last century. So, and returns to the present. So it's very similar to this. It may have even had somewhat of an influence from this movie. It's entirely possible. I don't know. So he is no stranger to writing time travel stories himself before this movie came out back in the late 50s with Twilight Zone. Okay, next up, let me stop and ask. Ron may have checked out or moved on, but N5SQA, I'm curious. Ron, if you're still out there, what do you think? Is this a film that you would want to see, or do you have any comments about the time travel gig type thing from KE5ICX?
Tom, I'm still out here, and even after the first few comments at the very beginning of the net, I went and snarfed the URLs for the YouTube versions, and probably tomorrow I'll get a chance to watch them. SQA.
All right, thank you. And you may want to, I watch it on YouTube. It's on, I don't know what I use. I've got a couple of different streaming devices, Bob's plugged into the television. They ran a couple of semi-documentaries on Chris Marker after that, his film work after, which are equally as interesting. One is 20 minutes, another one's, I guess, another 20 minutes or so. They're relatively short, but talk about the guy's history and other films that he made, passed on. The guy's 2012, maybe a little earlier than that. At any rate, very interesting information. It kind of gives you more of a backstory. Since I watched this stuff cold, I didn't realize that he was so well regarded in his kind of avant-garde films that he does, almost documentaries, but not quite. Okay, next, Bill. Bill, your comments on characterization from KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom, this is InfabBB. First, I want to throw in something that's not exactly the plot. Maybe it's characterization. It's characterizations of the location. So let's think about it. The name of the film, La Jetée, the jetty, is the jetty or observation platform at Orly Airport. So I think it's extremely important that the author placed this, the start of this film and the end of it, on the observation platform at the airport. So, number one, and this all has to do with him observing things on that observation platform. What does he observe? As a child, he observes the mysterious woman, and he observes the dying person. He doesn't know who it is. And he's observing the airplanes that are landing and taking off. This is a big deal at the start of the movie. Think about it. They had all these shots of the airplanes landing and taking off. They were trying to let us know this was important. Okay. At the end of the movie, he's back to the same place and observing things on that same jetty. So I think we need to remember the name of the movie and the fact it has, even though during the middle of the movie it goes all over space and time and maybe alternate histories and weird things, it is anchored to the jetty. That's an anchor in the film, and I think that's important to thinking about this time travel loop and how the movie was made and why it was made and everything. So this movie could be thought about observation, because during this movie, what is the protagonist doing? There's all these, this has to do with the way the film was made also, all these still photographs. He is observing things either in his memory or in reality, and we have a hard time understanding which is memory and which is reality. When he's been injected with drugs and things are happening, we don't really know. But he's observing things in these still pictures. The technique, well, I'm getting into maybe technique, but it's hard to separate these things out because characterization of the characters too. That was important. So characterizing the characterizations of these characters, you have to think about how they're presented. They're presented as two-dimensional, black and white, still images, essentially. These snapshots. And I think that's important. You're observing these things. The observation is all important. This is N5BB. The protagonist, we don't know much about him other than he has these strong memories. That's all we really know about him. We know that he went through this nuclear war. Do we know anything about? Does he have brothers and sisters and parents and family, wife, kids? We don't really know that. Or if they told us, it flicked by so rapidly, I did not notice it. We don't know his name. We can kind of see how old he might be. We don't know what kind of worker he is. How is he? Did he go to college? What does he do? We don't know any of that. What does he think about things? We don't know a lot. We know about how he's observing things, but we really don't have much characterization of him. I think this is important. This is about observation, about memories of things. But that's the only characterization we really have of him. How about the woman? We don't know her name. We assume she's maybe in France, but we don't really know that. We know that she was there on that day on the observation deck, the jetty of the Orly airport, but that's all we really know. And we know she was there at the museum and some other places. But we don't know, does she have a job? What does she do? What does she think? We don't know anything about her. I mean, it's like people you're walking by on a street and you've got these still photographs and you look at them and you're imagining, I wonder what that person does. I wonder where they came from. What is their home life like? That's all we know. It's like a series of snapshots. So, Same thing with the scientist or the technician that's sending him through time, and seems to be rather evil. They're doing it for some reason to save society. But we don't know anything else about his motivations. That seems like a good motivation. But there at the end, it looks like he's killing people through this. I don't know about the characterizations of all these people with these weird lenses on their eyes. There's not just one of them. There's a lot of people in it with these weird-looking glasses and kind of telescope or microscope lenses on their eye. Again, remember what I said? This is about observation. So I think maybe the filmmaker is pointing this out very directly. It's all about observation. It's about what you see through the eyes. It's the images. So that's what I think about the characterization. Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I wrote some notes about that too. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, your thoughts on characterization and acting. KU5ICS.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL. Well, I think they knew what they were doing. They purposely kept these people anonymous and kind of ordinary-looking people. They didn't tell us much about them. Sort of maintained the mystery of them all. We don't know anything. We don't know what they did or where they came from or where they're going or anything. But that's just kind of the whole thing that was done on purpose. I thought the guy and the woman were very strangely attractive people, not classically beautiful, but fairly appealing looking. And, they just seem like really nice folks. So, you think, well, gee, I'd like to know more about them, but I think that would start to ruin the whole thing. I don't think I'm not sure we had anybody's names. It really made them anonymous. But the goons that had captured him were really creepy-looking people. That was kind of over the top. And the guy and the woman were purposely, normal, not benign types. But there was some creepy folks, and they did a good job making them seem creepy. I was very disturbed when he died. I did not like that. Don't know what else you would have done with this story, but that bothered me a lot. And it's just a lot of this there just wasn't any detail. They didn't tell you what was happening. You're either going to have to just not know or fill in the blanks for yourself. And I think that helped with the mystery of it all. Okay, back to net, WB5OZL.
Yep, thank you, Brenda. I agree with every comment you made. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts about characterization and acting in our film, HSK from 1962, KU5ICS.
This is KB9SOK. Yeah, I think it's been pretty well said. I think Tony nailed the narration part of it. Obviously, it's the only verbal that we heard. And then I think Bill just had nailed it on the other half of it, which was the observation. We didn't learn a lot about these characters. All we knew about our protagonist was that, for whatever reason, and how the scientist knew that he spent a lot of time dreaming of the past, which is why they picked him. That's about all we really know about him, other than that he was a prisoner. Which, once again, I think Brenda just pointed that out, is that was probably intentional. That way it added to the mystery. It didn't give you a lot of detail. But as far as acting, this is kind of going into the third round. I kind of apologize for that, but it's kind of important to the acting, because this was kind of, in a lot of ways, filmed like you'd read a comic book, just with, picture frames. And as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So, I mean, the acting was obviously the expressions on the people's face, and that told really the story. You knew exactly how they were feeling by the look on their face. So I do think the actors did a good job of nailing what they were asked to do to get the feeling across. Even though maybe we don't technically consider this classical acting, I do think they did a good job of getting that expression across. So I do think that was decent. That was one of the things that I did kind of like about this movie, was just I think it took a lot of time to get the perfect shots. That part I did find interesting, and then I think the third round obviously is going to be pretty interesting about this film. But anyway, I think it's all been said. So back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. And you answered a question that I was going to ask about the movie, or I was going to comment about, which is, I'll mention it in just a minute. Okay, we're at the bottom of the list. Anyone else want to check in before I go ahead and give my comments? Tonight's movie we're talking about is Legete from 1962. If you'd like to join us, even if you haven't seen the film, that's okay. If you're out there, we don't mind to know that others are listening. If you'd like to join us, please come to the call now. Okay, hearing none. Here, once again, I took notes from what other people said, and I thought it was quite interesting, because it does bring up some interesting leads along the way to further discuss. One of the things was Bill mentioned that, let's just say, is the airport, right? And it begins and ends at the airport, as he said. I was beginning to think about that, because we know that there's death at the beginning, there's death at the end. Presumably our same character dies, and we have the looping effect that we see. But if we take it literally and say, okay, what about if this is a dream sequence, or it's a death sequence, and this is happening to him? And all of this other stuff that's going on, the future, the present being post-apocalyptic, and the future being into the distant future, is really not true. Maybe the unreliable narrator is actually explaining his own death. That's entirely possible. I think that can certainly play into it. I was listening to a program, and I actually found the transcript on it. It's really short, about Bob Woodruff. He was the guy who was a correspondent. Actually, he was a rising star over at ABC News, and was to take over the main anchor desk, and he was in an accident in Iraq with an explosive device that hit him, and he had serious injuries after that. And he mentioned this while they were on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, which is actually quite an interesting program at that time. It's a game show, but I found the actual transcript from this program. The memory that I had was, when we were hit, I went unconscious, and I literally saw my body kind of floating underneath. And I was up, and then I woke up, and after I fell into the tank, and I looked up, and I saw my producer, Vinny Malhotra, and I said, "Am I still alive?" And he said, "You're still alive." And then the next thing I remembered was when I suddenly came back to life, and my younger brother said to me, "Are you okay? I mean, how was it?" And I said, and I got to say right now, I'm in so much pain. But when I was there, it was white and silent. There was no fear. And I said to him, literally, I said, I got to tell you, I wouldn't mind going back there. So in some ways, because of this, I think I have a way, I don't really have that much fear of death. And I was thinking about that. He had some other comments, but that was the one that really hit me. And I was thinking about that all day today, and then kind of played into this with the story about this guy. And maybe he was in the throes of death, and that this was a story that was explained. Certainly, it's meant for the audience. How is the audience supposed to react and act in such a way? I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting and maybe another interpretation of this film. Now, conveying a feeling and understanding of the film, I was thinking about that from a mechanical standpoint too, or from a presentation standpoint. We all do this. You know, we think about radio, commercial radio, and radio dramas and things like that, where the actors have to present to you a story and they have to describe things. Who is that man behind the pillar with the gun? You know, you have to say that in a radio drama, or you have to do the audio part to make it a gun clicking to indicate that the cock is set, the gun is cocked and set, ready to fire, and then you shoot, or whatever. You know, all of the Foley type things that go on, something like that. Then we look at the other side, say, of advertising or photography. You have to tell a story inside of that, or a painting for that matter. All these things are frozen in time, and you are left with some interpretation and a lot of interpretation in some cases. Go to art galleries, I sit and I spend my time staring at paintings, and I start seeing things. I homestead, as I've been told, and people don't like going to museums with me because they spend too much time on one particular painting, because I'm enthralled and drawn into what's going on. This movie does that. It pulls you in. It leaves some interpretation because it is a series of still images. Staged images, certainly, and it's left to some interpretation. The actors have to decide and have, in the sequence, much like the comic sequence like Sean was saying, but there's enough in between this to it that you kind of wonder what's happening, how it's happening, and you have enough time in this thing to really kind of think through it. Your brain is going to fill in the blanks, and as such, you're going to do things that maybe the original creator in this case, you know, the director in this case is maybe intended or left it sufficiently vague to allow us to fill in the blanks. We've talked about 2001 many times and how that plays into it, the same thing. They don't Dick and Jane the whole thing and tell you everything you need to know. And maybe that's what makes it a good movie, or to some people, a terrible movie, because you're forced to think it through, and you may feel gypped in thinking that the ending doesn't, or the story doesn't provide you enough information. But for others, it's an opportunity. It's a theater piece that brings out real, interesting conversation, dialogue, thought processes, which I think any good piece of art should do. And I don't know. I just think it's quite fascinating. There are a lot of things that come into it. I've had enough time to think about this thing, even though it's only 28 minutes long, and now 24 hours later, I'm beginning to really think, I got to go back and watch this thing and see what I pull out of it. Maybe for my own benefit. I don't know. Okay, a lot of rambling there, but I just kind of wanted to mention that because these things have kind of a confluence on me today. Okay, final round. Let's talk about anything you want to, or the technical aspects of the film. We've kind of done and touched on some of that because this film is very technical in the way it's executed in very interesting ways. So, and maybe in perplexing, frustrating ways too. I don't know. We'll start at the top. Tony, NT5TF. Any comments? Any comments? Everything's on the table right now from KE5ICF.
Oh, I have a few. Aaron is up and awake again and feeling able to make some comments. And we both have a few things to add. The sound. The occasional music, the drama of the war and the destruction of Paris. The heartbeat sounds and the double heartbeat sounds. Scary and eerie. We were both really struck by that whispering that was happening during the science experiments. It was so creepy. And Aaron just pointed out that, hey, this was 1962. World War II is not that long ago. The characters speak French, but the scientists and the experimenters are very obviously speaking German. Not a little bit menacing there, all this, die Vergangenheit, das Mädchen, denken Sie an das Mädchen. So yeah, very, very eerie, very good sound effects. Not like they hired John Williams, but they did very good. They did very good in the time they had. NT5TM.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Tony. And thanks for your comments this evening. Really appreciate it. KG5BZWJ, your comments. Anything you want, technical or anything we may have missed on the first two rounds from KE5ICF.
KG5BZW. I don't think I have much to say. Besides, I do wish that there's I guess the romance sequence seemed just a little bit too tedious for my taste. I think they're not strictly romance, but getting to know one another kind of thing. It's still, I was annoyed. It was just tedious, the whole sequence, and that honestly, as much as anything, that's probably the reason I stopped watching for a bit. But I realized, oh wait, there's 8 minutes left. I better watch this, the rest of this pretty soon. I had no idea that this movie was so short until I had to stop and watch and say, oh wait, there's not really much at all. Okay. So I can't, other than that, it's like time flew, I guess, so I can't really complain. It was a good film for us to watch. No regrets in watching it. But I had the next one. KG5BZW, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Thanks for your comments this evening. N5BB, Bill, go ahead with your final comments. Anything technical or anything we may have missed from KE5ICF.
Okay, Tom. This is N5BB. As already commented, this movie was made not that long after World War II. Maybe a little over 15 years after the end of the war. 15 years ago from us was like 2009. Doesn't seem like that far back, does it? And I think that Skynet is probably about 12 years old right now. So just a few years older than Skynet. So World War II and all the experimentation they found that occurred, the crazy Nazi experimentation during that war, was still in the minds of a lot of people, especially the French. And Again, I want to just emphasize the name of the movie, The Jetty, which involves the observation platform at the airport. And it is an airport where things are coming and going and people are moving around and there's interactions in space and time going on, so it's kind of interesting. One way I think you could look at this is a character looking at their own death. So we all can imagine our own death, which seems to us to be in the future. If you think about the child there at the airport on the jetty, he saw a death. It was his own death in the future. See, he's looking at something in the future. So I don't know. This film is an interesting time loop. Thought about, the termination of our lives in the future, which in this case is in the past, and the difference in memory between future memories and past memories. So it's a lot to think about. I agree with Tony. The music and the sound effects kind of pull you through it, and the heartbeats and those kind of things. But the simplicity of parts of the movie, the way it's done with the still images, rather simple, not very high resolution, not color, but black and white. I think also adds to the allure of this movie. I think that's all I've got. Interesting. And 5 BB.
Thank you, Bill, and thanks for your comments. You had a lot of really good points this evening. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your final thoughts? Anything you want, technical or something we may have missed from KE5IATX.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. Yeah, we had a lot of good observations tonight. This film is truly a work of art, and there's just so many layers of things that when you think about it, you go, oh, yeah, this and that. This ties together, and I didn't notice that. It's the kind of thing where you're always finding new things or thinking about new things. And, we saw it maybe a couple of weeks ago, which was also in the 60s, about war. I remember these times. I was scared to death of nuclear war, just terrified. Really wanted my parents to build a bomb shelter, and they just wouldn't. And I'd lie awake at night, literally, and worry that we were about to get bombed because I just figured it would come out of the blue without any warning whatsoever. And we'd just all die instantly. And that, I'm sure in 1962 there were still a lot of buildings in Europe that had not been repaired yet. I'm sure there was a lot of war damage still. Just a constant reminder of what happened to those people. So it's, it is a great concern that we might just all destroy ourselves one day, blow ourselves up, and you just don't feel safe. This movie is, what's odd about it is everything is so distant. You don't know who these people are, don't know anything about them, and yet there's a real intimacy there. You just feel like you're standing next to them the whole time. You hear their breathing, the whispering, the close-up scenes, and you're just really pulled into it. It's actually pretty riveting, and it kind of sneaks up on you. You don't realize what they're doing to you until it's too late. So it's, and they didn't beat you over the head with this so much. It was a short story. They made their point and they wrapped it up. But I think it's a very powerful message, a powerful movie. And I'm glad we saw it.
All right, thank you, Brenda, and thank you for your comments. KB9 is okay. Sean, you get, almost the final word. I guess I get a final word. But please, go ahead. Your thoughts, final thoughts on the film, technical or otherwise.
This KB9 SOK. Yeah, I think that what everybody's already mentioned is dead on. I do think that the sound was well done. I do, if you want to call it cinematography, that was well done. They were very careful to pick out their scenes. And as Brenda just brought up, which I think kind of ties that together too, about you did feel like you were right there next to the guy as he was going through this. Which I thought was quite smart in this movie. Even though maybe a little bit of the plot annoyed me, I very much enjoyed the way that they put this film together and the way it made you think. The movie was kind of simple. It really was a simple plot, but yet it wasn't a simple plot because you could be led down very many paths, as everybody said, and we've heard some very interesting interpretations, and I think any of them are plausible. Like you said earlier, it's a little bit like the 2001. It kind of just leaves it kind of up to you, which is kind of nice. So, there was a little bit of annoying me, but overall, I did like this movie, just the way it was filmed and put together. It was interesting, and I think the timing was perfect for this. I think had they tried to drag this out for an hour and a half, I think it would have been too much. I think it would have been a totally different thing. This almost, in some ways, felt like a little bit of a Twilight Zone episode. But overall, I would recommend this movie. I'm glad we watched it. Your comments about thinking about it for 24 hours is interesting, because I did just watch this movie a little while ago, so it's not really set on me yet. So come tomorrow, it'd be interesting if my opinion or thoughts of what it really meant may change, and it may be worth another watch down the road. So anyway, interesting net. Back to net. This is KB9 SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for your comments this evening. I don't have much to add. I kind of emoted over the film in the last round, so I don't have a lot to add to that. I agree with Sean. This was perfect length, I think. When we think about the best Twilight Zones, they're, 26 minutes long, because they were half-hour shows, which was unusual for a dramatic series, and it was unusual for anthology series, but it's the perfect length because the stories allowed immersion almost immediately, and you were left to some interpretations as well because the stories had to end. Anything longer probably wouldn't have been as good. And if you go back and look at Twilight Zone stuff too, as just an aside, there were a few one-hour episodes. Those were not the best episodes. The ones that were the best episodes were always the half-hour ones. So keep that in mind. Okay, I have nothing else to add, I guess. The special effects, everybody mentioned all the things. The sound was great. Picture staging, all of that was quite fascinating. I kind of cheated and went into a little bit of that on the last round. So ditto, and as far as the comments that people have made. All right, let me go ahead and tell you what next week's movie is. It is from 2017, The Space Between Us. This is maybe one of the better films. I don't know. I've not seen it. It could be very interesting about a man who was born and raised on Mars and comes to Earth. There's a little bit of a romantic angle, I guess. So either this thing will be really good, or it could be something along the Hallmark channel. Hopefully not. At any rate, it's there. It's about 2 hours long. Maybe a little bit. I want to thank everybody for participating this evening, and thank you for all of your comments. I thought it was fantastic. I'm a little awake. I'm going to watch an early episode of Lost in Space. This is like number 3 or 4 of the original series of the first.
Elvis, trust the building.
I always like the original series. First few episodes were the best. So see you all next time. This is KE5ICX. Clear for now. Bye-bye.
And we both say thank you for